let me know when it's good. Should I begin? Is it live? Yeah. Okay. Do you guys see my screen? Okay, great. So hi, everybody. I'm Tirza Willner. I'm coming from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. I'm very excited to be here today and to present my paper that I worked on with Dr. Yuliya Lipshits-Braziler and Professor Itamar Gati, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. Our paper is on the construction and initial validation of the higher education orientation questionnaire. So before I begin, I would like to explore why we dove into this topic and why is higher education even important. So first, higher education is related to successful integration to the labor market, is related to social mobility, especially amongst disadvantaged groups. Its graduates earn higher salaries. Often they also work in better jobs and incurs many social opportunities that for the student, whether or not it's networking or student body or even finding their spouse in the future. However,
recording in progress.
However, even though there's a clear importance for attending college, the research regarding the purpose of higher education or college in young adult life is very, has multiple conceptualizations. Some studies talk about motivations, others about orientation, meaning, expectations, and many more. And a lot of times there's some sort of overlap between these constructs. And also there's a very few measures that tested this systematically and with a psychometrically sound process. To name a few, there's Lin and Lin that tested it and has a measure for it, or Katan Levine from 1997, who are the primary. And this is what led us to our current study. So in our study, we had a multi-study research program where we wanted to conduct two studies, where the first one we focused on the development of the higher education orientation questionnaire, where our goal is to integrate between the different theoretical conceptualization and to develop both a model and a questionnaire that will of higher education orientations. And the second was to test its concurrent validity. Again, three measures that are widely used in the career decision-making process: career decision status, career decision-making difficulties, and strategies for coping with career decision. So the first study, we will lay out the development process of the higher education questionnaire, orientations questionnaire, and some results from this process. So for those of you who may be less familiar with the psychometrics, the development process included 5 primary stages, where first we developed a theoretical model, and later we developed items according to this model. We've refined them using interjudge reliability and adjusting the questionnaire accordingly, and then we systematically tested and confirmed the model using data from participants. So now in the next slides, I'll go into each of these stages. So for the first stage of development of the theoretical framework, we did a literature review of studies and tested similar concepts of the purpose of higher education and tried to explain why young adults seek to attend college. Here we drew on both qualitative and quantitative research that elicited different dimensions describing motivations for attending college. The final product of this process revealed a multi-dimensional model of higher education orientations that consisted of 5 orientations for college. So the first would be profession orientation, which reflects the desire to attend college, to attain an occupation. The second would be knowledge, which reflects the desire to acquire prestige, the desire to attend college to gain knowledge and expand one's intellectual horizons. The third would be social orientation, which reflects the desire to improve social belonging and integrate into society and into this group that they perceive. And fourth would be the prestige that reflects a desire to acquire prestige and social status that derives from holding the actual degree. And the last one will be external, which reflects the intention to attend college to please people in one's immediate surroundings. And as higher education may have multiple meanings in one's life, people may have multiple orientations to attend college with varying salience. Just so that we can get a little bit of a better feel of how each of these dimensions look like, a few example items. So for profession, it would be going to college will allow me to acquire a job in the occupation I'm interested in. Knowledge would be I expect higher education to broaden my worldview. Social, my main interest is attending colleges to meet new people. And prestige, I think my friends will be impressed if I attend college. And last, external, I'll feel that I have no option other than going to college. So once we had our theoretical model, we developed a 52 items representing the different orientations. This comes out to about 10 or 11 items per dimension. We then gave 9 judges a description of each orientation and asked them to help classify each item into one of the 5 orientations. And the judges were psychology and educational counseling students. So this was supposed to be a sort of a qualitative way to assess whether or not the items really match the dimension that we think they do. And then we only used items and included those who had at least 70% agreement regarding their classification. And this process resulted in a 43-item online questionnaire, which in the next steps we tested empirically, which I will discuss in the next slide. So in the first step of testing the questionnaire empirically, we conducted this process that is shown on the right, where we first tested the questionnaire on a sample of deliberating young adults. Here in the maroon is where we begin. And then we tested the dimension internal reliability. We conducted a cluster analysis to really see the structure of the different items and the factor analysis. And according to these results, we deleted or adjusted items that were problematic. And then we repeated this process again a number of times till we reached a acceptable reliability and structure that we liked. So we did this process a few times. So we went down from 43 items to 30 and then to 25. And then on the next steps where we did the factor analysis on large samples, we conducted it on a 25-item questionnaire and 5 items per dimension. And this whole process of really the idea was to, before we run it on a large sample, to get a questionnaire and a measure that is more concise and more well-defined. So in order to test empirically the structure of the theoretical model and with a factor analysis, we collected data from 2 large samples of over 700 people. And in both, we split this into 2 different studies so that on the first study, we could explore the fact and use an exploratory factor analysis and explore the model. Whereas on the second study, we're going to confirm it on a new data set. So in both studies, about 2/3 were women, and the mean age was 22, which is the mean age of college students in Israel. And the mean years of education is 12, and about 70 to 80% of the students were planning and registering for college in the near future, already registered, so they were really interested in studying college, and this was a real debate that they were having at the moment. So before I go into the hard data, I wanted to just show you guys a little bit of the pattern of the 5 orientation in both samples. So we can see that in both samples, the pattern is quite similar, where profession and knowledge is the most salient orientation. Social and prestige were more moderately important, and external was the least important orientation. And the reliability estimates for the 5 orientations in both samples was good, ranging from 0.72 to 0.84. So in the first study, we conducted an exploratory factor analysis. The idea here was to see whether or not the data really elicits the structure that we wanted. And the numbers in the table on the screen show the factor loading range, where we deleted or erased any range that was below 0.2, so that it's a little bit cleaner. And what we can see from this slide is that we found that the dimensions accounted for 58% of the variance, and for the most part, the items loaded on the correct dimensions significantly, so as can be seen in the highlighted diagonal. However, the items 3, 6, and 13 were problematic, loading also on additional factors, so if we adapted them before running study 1B. So the next study where we did the confirmation, is a little bit of an improved version of the measure of the higher education orientation questionnaire. In the next step, we distributed the adapted version of the HO to study 1B and ran a confirmatory factor analysis. So we tested different fit indices for our study, and we found that the different fit was very good, as well as the items loaded significantly on their dimension with an interquartile range of 0.58 to 0.74. I don't know if you guys can see this because it's quite small, but this is the structure that that came up with the confirmatory factor analysis, and we can see that the loadings is quite high. And before I move on to study 2, I just wanted to give very initial results from an English version of the questionnaire. So till now, the result reflects the Hebrew version of the HEO. However, we have some initial results from a diverse English sample of students and deliberators, which show promising results. Where here we see that the reliability estimates are comparable to the Hebrew version, and also in a CFA, we see that the fit is quite well, and we expect these numbers to be even better once we increase the sample size. So for the second study, we wanted to test the concurrent validity of the HEO against other variables using the career decision-making process, career decision-making status, career decision-making difficulties, and coping strategies for career indecision. So previous research indicated that productive coping styles leads to a more advanced decision status, non-productive coping style leads to less advanced status and more difficulties and lower self-efficacy, whereas support-seeking coping is associated with other interpersonal factors like decision making profiles, consulting with others, and dependence on others. And career decision-making difficulties is associated with less advanced decision status. So we know how these three measures interact one with another, but we wanted to test where does HEO and the orientations to higher education come in and interact with these three dimensions. So as I showed in the beginning of the presentation, we're going to test here the concurrent validity of the HEO and test its association with these three dimensions, as well as try to structure and model these the interaction between these different constructs. So the measures that we used in this study was first with the HEO questionnaire, which I already spoke about. We used also the career decision status, which tested the range of considered alternatives of individuals from I still don't have a general direction to I am already sure of the occupation or major I will choose. And career decision-making difficulties questionnaire, where it elicits the sources of one's career decision difficulties, and has three clusters of career decision-making: lack of readiness, lack of information, and inconsistent information, as well as this total difficulty score. And last, the strategies for coping with career decisions, which look at three main coping styles, which is productive coping, non-productive coping, and support seeking. So who are the participants in this study? So here we tested 713 individuals that entered the Hebrew University's admission website. So these are students that wanted information on the application process to the university and came in on their own initiative and tried to find it, and were advised to answer the questionnaires. 2/3 were women, and the mean age was 22, as in the other studies. And the mean years of education was also 12. A whopping 91% plan to register for college in the near future already registered. This is higher than in the previous studies, which may indicate that they are more college oriented in the first place, and they are going into a university's admission website, whereas the other participants were pulled from a career guidance website. So they were looking at information regarding their future careers, but it doesn't have to be academic per se. So here we can see also that there is the pattern is very similar to what is shown in study 1A and 1B. And to our finer results, here is a graph that shows the association between the HEO on the one hand and coping strategies, career decision-making difficulties, and career decision status on the other. So on the left here, we see the y-axis which reflects the correlation. So for coping strategies and career decision-making difficulties, it would be the Pearson correlation, and for career decision status, it would be Spearman. And we see at the 0.1 and the 0.3, there's a line that indicates a smaller medium effect if the column is higher than it. And whatever is in darker, it's a significant correlation. So let's begin with the coping strategies. Here we see that the profession and knowledge orientation has a small effect on using productive coping, whereas social prestige and external have small to medium effect on non-productive coping and support seeking. If I move on to career decision-making difficulties, we see that all three of the career decision clusters and the total score have a similar pattern, where social, prestige, and external have a small to medium impact on the more difficulties, whereas social profession and knowledge do not. Social has a slightly lower than prestige and external, but we see that there's a very clear pattern over here. And lastly, in career decision status, unfortunately, there is no, we found no result regarding the HEO. So in the next step, viewing these pattern of correlations, we wanted to try to model how the HEO interacts with coping strategy, career decision-making difficulties, and career decision status. So in the next step, we conducted a structural equation model for the relationship between the variables, where we wanted to test whether or not the coping style mediates HEO's dimensions, a relationship with career decision-making difficulties and career decision status, while looking at two main paths. So the first would be profession and knowledge, which would lead to use of more productive coping styles, which in turn will mediate its relationship with career decision status. On the other hand, we will look at the social prestige and external that will lead to support seeking and non-productive coping, which will mediate their relationship with career decision-making difficulties and career decision status. We can see here, though, that we also allowed for prestige and external to have a direct impact on career decision-making difficulties and not only an indirect path through non-productive coping and support seeking. And here we see that there's different strengths to some of these paths, and the most prominent path here is the one between external to non-productive coping to career decision-making difficulties to a less advanced career decision status, which we see that the betas are quite high. And just to conclude, so we found that the HEO has good psychometric properties. There is significant support for its use in the career decision-making process. There is a differentiation between the 5 orientations and their pattern of associations with career decision-making difficulties, coping styles, and the career decision status. And this leads to 2 main pathways into the career decision-making process. The first is may be an intrinsic motivational path, where the individuals who have strong professional knowledge orientation use more productive coping styles and then advance more quickly into the career decision process. Whereas a second may reflect an extrinsic motivational process, where the individual has strong social prestige and external orientation, and those use more support seeking and non-productive coping styles, have more difficulties, and advance more slowly in the career decision-making process. And this really can reflect why some individuals may have more challenging career decision process and have a harder time deciding what they want to do and what career path they want to go into, and why some people have less, where here we see on the top in green, it might reflect this like easier way to for that some individuals have and move forward in, while the second path may reflect a more challenging career decision process. This highlights also a few implications for counseling and practice, where The HO can assist counselors in addressing the purpose of the counseling seek in attending college and help identify those individuals who may have a more challenging process due to their orientation and give them the assistance they may need in advance. And on the other hand, it can also help college institutions when they use HEO, they can map their students' expectations and better learn who they are and what they're looking for in their studies. And this can help them design programs that are better fit and address those orientations. So for example, if their students have a strong professional orientation, they can design programs with more field experience or connect them with employers. In contrast, if they have a strong knowledge orientation, they can design a program that includes a broader liberal arts degree, or maybe even have a wide range of courses, and you can think on so on with maybe student bodies for social, and it really can help design programs that fit in what the individuals and the students in those institutions are looking for. Thank you for listening, and that's me.
Yeah, I thought it was a really great piece of work, and I hope you go on to publish it. I'd be really keen to learn more about it. So yeah, thank you so much for that presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, we're waiting now on reviewers.
Fantastic.
Yes, thank you.
Brilliant. And I know that Anna's joined us, and I know that Anna was supposed to go first. So Anna, do you want to go next?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry, because I had problems before, but I am ready now. So thank you very much, Tirza, and it's a very interesting communication. I'm going to present my communication if you want. So I'm going to share. Sorry, where is the, okay, here, sorry. Are you seeing my presentation?
Yes, we can see.
Okay.
Thank you.
So my presentation is about rethinking mentoring and assessment in higher education. It's a communication we have done between Juana, Soriano, Alejandra, Cortés, and me. The three are from University of Zaragoza in Spain, from Faculty of Education. So we think that in this complex world, there are very higher and very oscillations in economic, social, and educational areas. So we consider that it's important the creation of educational contexts that promote critical thinking, analysis, reflection, synthesis, and deduction skill in students, especially in students of education. So in this way, we think that counseling should strengthen the development of lifelong learning skills and critical thinking. For that, formative assessment and mentoring are cornerstones of educational system. With two constants. First, the guide for teaching and learning. So because they guide the teaching and learning, and formative assessment and mentoring can provide information for marks of or certification. So in this way, mentoring based on the feedback can foster active and reflective learning to enhance the improvement competence and develop skills for life learning. So in this context, we have done a project in the degree of early childhood education of Zaragoza University. We have worked in through a problem-based learning in a collaborative way with the students of 3 subjects: early care, the second, innovation in inclusive education, and the third subject, educational responses to children with special needs. So the students of this degree of these subjects should integrate their competence and knowledge to educate children with special needs from an inclusive perspective. So they have to guide other teachers, and they have in the future they have to support the to teachers and families. What is the objectives of, which are the objectives of this study? First, to analyze the assessment process through mentoring of students of bachelor's degree in early childhood education in this context of a teaching innovation project. And second, to develop a student assessment system based on a process of joint and participative reflection, which improves the teaching skills of the students. So 227 students have participated, and 8 teachers of the different subjects. In an action research approach from a critical perspective, and we have used different tools to collect data. We have used a questionnaire with open questions to all the students. We have enjoyed 9 focus groups in which 35 students have participated, and we have collected information in our file diary. What is the process research? We show that we need to integrate contents and competence from the different subjects to promote global learning. So we decided to design an interdisciplinary project based on project-based learning with mentoring to guide the students. This is very important, mentoring and assessment and formative assessment. And then we implemented the project, and we observed the development of how the project was working. So we detected that we had to guide and to do orientations for at the first and during all the project to the students' teams, because the students had teams to do the projects, and we built an scale and an evaluation scale with the students during the class in a participatory way, in a collaborative way. And the students considered that they needed this scale at the first and during all the process to guide during in the mentoring according to the criteria of the scale. So teachers consider that this criteria during the, sorry, I have said that question. So after the implementation, the project was reconsidered. So we think that the meaning and level of the marks were very linked to the mentoring process carried out by each teacher. So the students that have enjoyed mentoring process more close and more intensive had better marks. And mentoring process is linking to the evaluation criteria. So all the time during the mentoring sessions, we studied and we tried to carry out the criteria about evaluation. And so the students elaborated in a participatory way the criteria of the scale, and they think that it's a very good way to know how they have to study and how they have to learn. And the students' participation facilitates formative and participatory evaluation of the competence. So they know which competences they have to learn and they have to develop. So tutoring must take into account the evaluation of criteria. So which are the results? The students refer to the importance of participation, collaboration, and reflection throughout the process. So one student said in the questionnaire, this work helps to think and they can reflect and think ourselves. A second result is that the assessment scale achieved in a participative way with the students provide information of the level of achievement of the students and in which areas needed to be improved and in which areas they have learned more. So one student, for example, said at the beginning we had difficulty to connect at the content of the subjects, but finally managed to do it jointly with the advice of the teachers. So the mentoring process and guiding process is very important for the students. And finally, the students need more monitoring from the beginning. So a student says, for example, the tutorials should start earlier because in the end they are the moments when we are more guided to continue working. For conclude, we think that assessment scale provides information for the monitoring process and raise the level of awareness. Thus, it enriches learning process and encourages reflective learning. More tutorials along the process should offer to enhance the students' learning process, especially at the beginning. And finally, this process of reflection in teaching practice has made it possible to rethink and improve the evaluation of teaching skills of university teachers related to mentoring and assessment. So no more, you have the reference here if you want to have a question or something like this. And anymore, thank you very much. And if you have any question or something like this, you can do the question. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say thank you again. That was really interesting, and really keen to hear more about that. I'm going to sort of just try and load my slides. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, I'll take, yeah. Are there any questions for Anna before I get started? Okay, so I'll jump straight in if that's okay. And I'm just gonna, brilliant, I think we're just about ready. So hello and thank you everybody for being here today. My name's Róisín Reid. I'm the Director of Student Experience, Employability and Progression and Senior Teaching Fellow for Warwick Medical School. So today I'm here because I wanted to talk a little bit about a careers curriculum that I integrated into the medical degree that we have at Warwick Medical School, that I've done since 2016 until till present. So by practice, I'm a careers practitioner and researcher, and I've now moved into a slightly different role in the medical school as the Director of Student Experience. But I wanted to sort of talk about this work and the impacts that it's had, particularly on one particular area of recruitment, which is academic medical career outcomes. So in terms of the presentation I'll deliver today, I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about the background of Warwick Medical School and who we are and why it was considered such a priority that actually we integrate careers within the medical degree, what the process and what was involved in creating this integrated careers curriculum, and just talk a little bit about the impact that that's had and discussion and what we can learn going forward and some of the impact on that. So I'm really going to try hard not to use lots of different acronyms and things like that, but I just wanted to sort of stop for a moment to just share with you what we have at Warwick. So who are the students who study our medical degree? So firstly, Warwick Medical School, it's centred in the middle of the UK. It's actually in Coventry. Our medical school is relatively new. We're only 20 years old, and we have 800 students on our medical degree. They're all already graduates of other disciplines. So in terms of our selection process, we only ask one thing, and students need to have gained what's called a 2-1 degree, so a good honours degree from any institution. And we don't look at any previous qualifications. We don't look at what they've obtained at school. We just only look at their degree performance. Did they get a good honours degree, or potentially they can get a master's degree if they want to and still enter down that route? And we look at all equivalences, but we just look for that one criteria. So students come from all degree backgrounds. So we have about 50-50 split between arts and humanities, social science students and science discipline. There's no difference in performance. Both groups do equally well. And we have a very diverse sort of range of student backgrounds. So we have a high proportion of students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds and a high proportion of students with disability. So I talk about the context now because I think that is important when we come back later when we look at the results. So that's a little bit more about who we are. And I won't dwell too much on this because particularly in the UK, the medical career pathway is quite complex. But basically, all students do an undergraduate medical degree. And once they're finished, in the UK, they have to do a 2-year foundation programme to gain their GMC qualification. So GMC is a General Medical Council. And at that point, they're fully qualified as a doctor. And then they choose to specialise in a particular medical career pathway. The yellow bar that you can see on the top there is academic medicine. So I'll tell you a little bit more about academic medicine as well now. So when I started in my careers role back in 2016, there was limited career support at Warwick Medical School. Well, limited, i.e. absolutely none at all. Our students were actually performing really badly in their foundation choice. They, in terms of Warwick Medical School, we were 32nd out of 33 medical schools in the whole of the UK, and that relied on students not being able to get what they wanted, their choice in medical specialty afterwards. And so when I started, it was seen as a priority that actually we wanted to improve students' ability to secure programmes, particularly within this subspecialty of foundation programme called Academic Foundation Programme. As an exclusively graduate entry course, with many students having previous research experience, we were just thinking, why are these really good students not getting the jobs that they want? So I did an evaluation to try to get students perspectives of sort of their current state of play and their understanding of things. And one thing was very clear, is that there just wasn't the support that they needed. So why is specifically academic medicine important? So academic medicine comprises scholarly activities which are by definition inclusive of things like research, teaching and leadership duties. Research is obviously key to ensuring the future cutting edge in patient care. Without developing the future succession of researchers coming into medicine, the profession faces significant challenges of how we can sustainably continue to excel in developing treatments. Teaching is obviously fundamental to preparing the next generation of doctors. So all of the doctors who we're training now are also teachers of the people in the years below. And it's really important that we're there to sort of stimulate and develop that pipeline. And of course, leadership is imperative to ensure the future of the medical workforce and patient welfare. So the Academic Foundation Programme itself has been created in recognition of the future needs of the medical profession. And the purpose is to give doctors, once they've graduated as foundation doctors, time out of clinical training to develop some of these scholarly activities. So historically, Warwick Medical School were performing really poorly on the Academic Foundation Programme, and we decided that we needed to do something about this. So as I said a moment ago, the evaluation that I undertook showed that students felt completely unsupported, and there was clear need that within the careers, within the MBCHB curriculum, that we had an opportunity to develop some of these career decision making. And this is particularly important in our graduate entry cohort, who do their degree in 4 years instead of a normal 5 or 6 years that other standard entry programs offer. So it's really important that they get support with making those career decisions, which happen all too fast for our medical students. So in terms of the approach I took, the theoretical basis for this project was based upon the premises of experiential and reflective learning, which are, of course, learning modalities that so many people are familiar with, and they're very familiar to our students because it's how, like a lot of the medical degree is built on those two modalities. So the project chose to use Kolb's experiential learning cycle and Schoen's reflection in and on action for consistency within the medical programme. So for the students who wanted to apply to the Academic Foundation Programme, we created a sub-programme of support for those students that enable them to develop key skills through going through the processes of abstract conceptualisation in the form of lectures, experimentation in small group teaching, concrete learning experiences through giving and receiving feedback with their own peer group, and reinforced by their reflection in and on action. And all throughout, this was underpinned by one-to-one career guidance and support. And these cycles repeated, building on each subsequent career session. The programme was designed by a qualified career guidance practitioner, which I think was really important, with sessions also led by foundation doctors in the years above that students could role model and emulate their behaviours. So this is the framework for the careers curriculum. So all students took part in the careers curriculum, which was mapped to the 4 years of study. And I mapped this against Elton and Reid's 4-stage career decision-making model. So in year 1, they're mostly being taught within the medical school, doing their preclinical training. So this was mapped against self-awareness, where the career interventions during that year were mapped against the mode of study at that time, and given them opportunities to reflect and explore through, for example, careers events. Then in year 2, when they go out to their clinical, start to go on to clinical placements, we did some career interventions around exploration to help them begin to expose themselves to role models, know what questions to ask, and develop their confidence in exploring different careers. In year 3, we focused on decision-making and approaches to decision-making. We mapped this against what's going on in their curriculum related to, they start preparing to go on a medical elective where they get to try out different specialties. And they also start thinking about applying to their foundation programme. So we equip them with some of the skills that they need to be able to do that. And then in year 4, we focus on taking action. So all of this was integrated according to their learning needs, for example, related to their phases in the clinical training. The programme also involved key stakeholders in their student learning, which was absolutely critical. So they had role models to emulate, they had involvement from academics, from their peer groups, as well as the programme being underpinned by a career guidance practitioner who of course is familiar with models of career decision making, who is sort of crucial in enabling that to sort of take forward. So the programme started in 2016 and has been going since, and the results for the past several years have transformed Warwick's success rates. So the Warwick, since 2017, Warwick have been within the top 5 of the 33, well now 34 medical schools in the UK. They've also been within the top 10 for the academic foundation programme and came second in the UK in 2018 in terms of the conversion rate from where students had applied to the offers they received, as well as, importantly, the student feedback from our evaluation has been unanimously positive. Students strongly valued the opportunity to gain and develop these skills and believe that they would be important throughout their career. And indeed, the interaction that we've held with the students who've been through this programme, who are now returning to us alumni, want to hand down the ladder to the students in the years below, I think is testament to the development of that lifelong learning. So just specifically to show you the results from the academic foundation programme, I haven't included 2021 statistics because I'm still waiting for those to be confirmed. However, you can see the blue line here is Warwick's applied to Oxford for the academic foundation programme, and historically it was really low, and then now you can see it's way above the national average, so it's significantly improved there. And just to highlight a couple of pieces of student feedback here. So I thought the preparation provided was absolutely fantastic. Some of the current doctors commented that their medical school didn't provide anything nearly as extensive. So I think this year's applicants and I have been very fortunate, thank you. I thought the whole process was managed extremely well. I think the programme leader did excellently and was really helpful. There was so much I didn't know that I didn't know. The process was really thought-provoking. So in terms of conclusions, student feedback is suggestive that the careers programme has had a positive impact on the success rate, particularly for those applying to the academic foundation programme, but more widely has had benefits to their career readiness. And in terms of the context of medicine in the UK, we've got significant workforce challenges where currently at least 30% of the UK medical population are taking time out of training and career breaks or are considering leaving the professional. There's high levels of burnout, and one of the things that that this programme seems to highlight within medical students is that actually they feel like having the career decision making tools will help them in their future career be able to sort of navigate some of those challenges. I suppose my observations are, if we are to create lifelong learners, then we need to resource this. We need to press home the importance of being able to teach lifelong career management skills, which will enable our future students who are here, doctors, to navigate these sometimes stormy seas of their career. But it absolutely must be resourced effectively and to be able to have the tangible results. And this is just one really, really small example, but it testifies as to the importance of careers support and the importance that it has on each individual person and the impact it has on their future. Also, another observation is that, particularly considering the nature of our students and the nature of our, for example, the fact that we have lots of students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, actually the success of this programme testified that actually career guidance itself can serve as a proxy for cultural capital. And in this, I think there is, I suppose there are lots of things that I want to take forward from this project, but one of them is looking at the ways in which career support specifically can help students from widening participation backgrounds, students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds who, so academic medicine is really competitive, but our students, just through some small acts of support, were able to perform, like go from not performing at all or getting the jobs they wanted to suddenly being able to do that. Strikes me as that there's huge potential here for enabling social justice and offering more targeted support to specifically those students and individuals. So that was my presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and hopefully I've left a couple of minutes for questions, and here are the references, and I can make anything else available. So thank you. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. It was so interesting. It was very you could take it to like any field. It's really cool how you guys were able to really transform your program.
Thank you. Thanks. Brilliant. Are there any other questions, or are we okay to finish slightly ahead of time? Brilliant. So we'll end there. Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you all. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you. See you.